Here we go, my personal top 10 games of all time, according to me. I can't wait to share this with you guys. If you like some of these games as well, make sure to like the video because it helps me out a lot. And if you have like similar preferences, tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Okay, without further ado, let's jump into number 10. So number 10 is Magic the Gathering. This is a game, just when I think I'm done with it, managed to get its hooks into me and pull me back in. From time to time, I'll indulge into this game. It just reminds me of all that nostalgia and all that time I spent with Magic the Gathering and how much fun it is. It's such a great game. And one of the things that I like about this game is just how many different ways there are to play it. You've got your standard mode, you've got Commander, which is probably one of the most popular ways to play. And then I really enjoy, my favorite way to play is Limited, where you're drafting a deck from a shared pool of cards. There's no better way to play Magic than that. And yeah, I love the times that I have with this, and the head-to-head nature of Magic the Gathering is really fun. So that's my number 10, Magic the Gathering. Next up, we have number 9, and number 9 is This War of Mine, a game that I've only ever played solo, but man, what a solo game this is. This takes many hours to get through, so quite often I'll have it left on my table, or it has a really good saving system inside the game, so you can pick up where you last left off. But the idea in this game is that you are people in a war-torn city, and you're just trying to survive. You're civilians, and scrounging for resources, trying to find food, weapons, running into people and hoping that they're not going to try and hurt you. Or do you put yourself in that position where you have the weaponry to defend yourself and decide, I need their resources more than they do, and you rob these people? Like, it's just, it's such a deep, dark world, it feels so real. The story is very good, and the game is always different. What determines this is that when you explore a new location or something like that, it might prompt you to pick a color. And there's a deck of cards that you shuffle up, and there's 5 or 6 different colors. You pick a color at random, and that determines what's going to happen in that area. And it goes to this little logbook where you have to read these different narrative events that happen. And some of this stuff, this is not for the faint of heart. A lot of this story is very dark and very real. It feels like these are the events that could be happening in a real wartime situation, So the game's not for everyone, but man, the story in this is like, the story that it tells is really strong and really interesting. And if anything of what I'm saying is interesting to you, it's worth checking this game out. The story is really compelling. But again, the themes, if you're very sensitive to that, this is one to stay away from, because there are some very mature themes in this. And yeah, again, not for everyone, so pick at your own discretion. Okay, the next game I want to talk to you about, number 8, is Summoner Wars. This is a head-to-head style game where each of you will have your own faction, a deck of cards, and you are using that deck to create these warriors on the board and move them into your enemy's territory, because it's an area control style game, and you're trying to kill your opponent's summoner. That's how you win the game. What I really like about this game is that these different factions that you can buy, they're all very different, and they all have their own synergies and strategies that they want to do. For instance, you might have the Fallen Kingdom, and they have a lot of stuff that comes back from the graveyard, zombies and stuff like that. Or you could be playing as the Tundra Dwarves, and they have these parapets that they can shoot through, but you can't shoot back at them through those. And they can push their structures around, and they have a lot of manipulation with that kind of stuff. So all the factions play very different from one another, and it's just really interesting, enjoyable game. It always feels very close. Like one of the last games I just played, I managed to just narrowly get it because my opponent's summoner was coming a little closer forward to me to try and knock me out, and I managed with a play, one of my abilities, I was able to slingshot one of my characters just that little bit further so I could get a hit on him, and I managed to take him out. So it was just a 50-50 at that point. If I didn't manage to pull off that hit, then I would have lost the game. There is a little bit of luck involved in this game in the sense that when you perform an attack, you're rolling dice, but that's sort of part of the fun. You can never really know whether you're going to be successful in your attacks or not. And this game is all about taking risks. Which risks are worth taking and which ones where are you going to play safe as well, you know? And I really like that aspect of the game. And yeah, a lot of fun stories come out of this. A really enjoyable game. I recommend checking it out. If you like two-player games and you like card games and all that kind of stuff, Summoner Wars is one to check out. My number 7 game of all time is Wingspan. And Wingspan is a tableau building game / engine building style game where you're trying to collect as many birds as you can and as many points as you can as efficiently as you can. So there are 4 actions that you can do. You can play a bird, you can lay eggs, you can collect more bird cards, and you can collect food. Now, the cards that you collect, the birds that you create on your board, they make your actions better. You get more bonuses for taking those actions if you happen to have a lot of birds in those zones associated with those actions. So it's really fun in that aspect of trying to game it so that you can lean into a particular action and do quite well with that action because you have a lot of birds there. But it's easier said than done because a lot of the time you need to do all your actions. So how do you manage your tableau? What sort of strategy are you going to go for? And there's a lot of other ways to get points. You know, you can max out your eggs and get a lot of points there. There's a shared goal board where you're trying to beat your opponents in scoring particular things to get bonus points there. And you have your own hidden goals that you're trying to achieve. So there's quite a bit going on in this game. It's a really enjoyable one. At the same time, it's still quite light. It's not very hard to get played as well. And most people will find it pretty easy to get into. So that's number 7, Wingspan. Okay, my number 6 game is It's a Wonderful World. And this is a drafting game, very similar to 7 Wonders and anything of that ilk. But the idea is the cards that you draft, you're determining whether you want to toss them away for their printed resources or are you going to try and build that card. And the reasons why you might want to build cards is that they give you production values. So you can get more resources to build more cards. Or maybe you want to lean into the cards that give you lots of victory points. And being able to manage that so that you are creating enough resources to make cards and that you're not leaning too far into victory point cards because then you don't have enough resources to make those cards. And maybe you don't want to get too many resource producing cards because then you've got no points at the end of the game. One of the aspects I really like about this game is having to sort of think ahead and plan out what you need to do because it is very much a forward-thinking game. If you just go, oh, I'm sure I'll pick this card and it'll work out, I'm sure, you're going to fall flat on your face. You really do need to know what resources you have available to you, what resources can you get available before that production phase so that you can actually create as many cards as efficiently as you can. So that is my number 6 pick, It's a Wonderful World. All right, here we are, the cream of the crop, the top 5 games of all time. Starting with number 5 is Abyss. Now in Abyss, you are trying to collect points by buying these lords, these underwater lords. It's an underwater sort of politics themed game. And the interesting thing about this game is that whenever you perform an action, you are doing things that potentially help other players. For instance, you're going to need these associate cards, I believe they're called. And to do that, you need to dig through the depths to get these cards. Now, you'll do this by flipping the top card of the deck. And every other player at the table will have the opportunity to buy that card from you. So you can't get first dibs on it. So you could be potentially handing someone something very helpful. Then eventually you'll pick a card and the rest that weren't picked will go into these piles. Now, people could be grabbing these piles as their action. So you have to be careful what goes into these piles. If you don't like the green cards, but a lot of really good green cards went into a pile, then someone can snag that up for free, no questions asked. When you're buying lords, which is how you're getting victory points, by the time you buy a certain amount of lords, it will refresh, and the person who refreshed it will get a bonus for doing that. So that's also something you need to be wary of. I need to be buying cards, but I don't want to give my opponents free resources for getting the last card. Or I could be spending my resources to get more lords out, but am I helping you when I do that? And in addition to all this, you could be trying to collect these keys. And these keys are important to gaining access to locations that give you extra scoring potential. If you collect 3 keys, you get one of these, but you could decide to take one that's available face up, or you could go into the deck. You can look at the first 4 cards, right? But the thing is, if you go as deep as 4, the ones you don't pick go face up so that anyone else can nab them. So it's risky to go that deep into the deck. So you're always trying to think, what sort of chances am I willing to take? Because if I give my opponents too much stuff, they're going to outvalue me and they're going to beat me. A really fun game. Check this one out. This one is Abyss at number 5. So my number 4 pick is Dice Forge. And this is a dice manipulation game. You have 2 dice, and as the game progresses, you'll be buying new dice faces to upgrade your dice. So you can have whatever faces you want on there, right? As long as you can afford those faces. And you are using your dice to collect resources to buy more faces and heroic feats, which give you additional resources, actions, and all that kind of stuff. The cool thing about this game is there's no downtime. On everyone's turn, we're all rolling dice and we're all collecting resources. The production value on this game is top notch. It's such a nice looking game. And I love the insert that the game comes in. It's so neat. Everything, it looks so nice. It's a really good game. And it's very quick and snappy. It really feels like you're not sitting around waiting for anyone because everyone's rolling at the same time. They make their purchase and then it's the next person's go. Very quick game, very fun, and very easy to learn. Dice Forge, worth checking out. All right, my number 3 game is a little bit of a cheat. This is actually a collection of games. These are the Clank games. There's a lot of different variations of Clank, and I love them all. They're great games. The idea is this is a deck building game where you're trying to delve deep into a dungeon, collect a treasure, and escape before you are killed, right? And the way this happens is, as you're playing cards, some of them have what's called clank. And these are these cubes of your color that are gonna go into a bag. And as the dragon attacks, determined at random by cards that are flipped by the market row, they're gonna be pulling your cubes out of a bag. Well, you hope they're not your cubes, because if all your cubes come out, you're gonna die. So there's a lot of sort of risk in the sense, do I grab this really powerful card that can do a lot, but it adds a lot of clank, it creates a lot of noise. And that dragon's gonna find me a lot easier if I play cards like that. Or do I go into the game trying to just get in and out really, really fast? Or do I play cards that remove my clank? Or do I try to heal myself and try to play the long game and get the best treasure that's deeper into the dungeon? So I really like this one. There's quite a few different iterations, as I mentioned before. The initial one is a sort of fantasy style theme. Then you've got Clank in Space, which is a sci-fi version. Clank Catacombs is a build your own dungeon with tiles that will flip over, and you can also change the orientation of these tiles as well, which could screw people over. And then you've also got the legacy version of Clank, which is a really good time. It's worth checking out as well. So that is Clank, my number 3. All right, my number 2 game of all time is another deck building game. I like deck building games, I really do. And this is Lost Ruins of Arnak. Now, this one gets so much better with the expansions that add in those player powers and asymmetric sort of abilities. This is a game changer. If you play Lost Ruins of Arnak, make sure you get the expansion with the extra player powers, right? So the idea here is that this is a big point salad. You're trying to get as many points as you can. And the interesting thing about this game is there's just so many ways to get points. Everything you do is points, right? There's a research track that you're trying to bump up and collect points. And if you get to the top, you can spend resources to buy tablets, which are even more points. This is something that you really must be doing. Everyone should be going up this research track. A lot of people argue that this is the main way to play, but I've seen people win without going all the way up it. So don't be fooled. You can, if you play your cards right, win through other strategies. You can be killing monsters as you are exploring the Lost Ruins of Arnak. New sites will have these guardians that are protecting them. And if you manage to overcome these guardians, they'll give you an ability, but also points. Then you've also the cards that you're purchasing to add to your deck. They're gonna make your deck more powerful for one, but they're also points at the end of the game. And there are 2 different types of cards you'll be purchasing. Inventory cards, which are a bit easier to acquire, and they go on your deck so that you can play them next time. Or you could be acquiring these artifact cards, which are a bit trickier to play because you have to pay a tablet. But the cool thing about these cards is the first time you purchase them, you get an immediate benefit. And that's cool. That's something you don't often see in deck building games. I love that. So Lost Ruins of Arnak, check it out. It's a really fun game. All right, here we are at number 1, my personal favorite board game of all time, right now anyway. That may change in the future. It is another deck building game, and this is one that's jumped back up. It was fading, but then I played it again and it made me realize just how much I love it, and that is Dune Imperium. Dune Imperium is such a scrappy deck builder game, and yes, I love my deck builders. It's another one. In this, I love that you are like fighting so closely to get those points. You only need 10 victory points to close out the game, but getting every single one of those victory points can be a real challenge. You're battling each other in a area majority sort of conflict. You are trying to get ahead on these relationship tracks or alliance tracks, sorry, and you're getting points that way, or you're doing it through your deck building. And I just love the deck building aspect of this, you know, whether you're using the cards to get to certain locations or you're revealing them for an action. I really enjoy this game. Every time I play it, I have a really good time. And yeah, I just love how it plays as well. It's so smooth, and the expansions also add in a lot as well. And I've always enjoyed adding them in. So yeah, Dune Imperium, awesome game. And I think it will remain in my top 10 for a long time. Really awesome game. Well, guys, that is my complete list. My top 20 games of all time. If you have any that, you know, were also in that list, make a comment down below. Let me know about it. And if you are interested, I've also got another video talking about my most played games of all time. So if you're interested, check that one out. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. See you later.